Hi, I'm Michael Richard. Today we're going to talk about terminating our cover crops. So in a previous video, we talked about cover crops extensively around selecting them, planting them. We briefly talked about terminating them and the benefits that they bring to you. But today we're focusing strictly on how to terminate your cover crops. So here in Louisiana, we like to do our cover cropping during the summer when it's way too hot to do growing outdoors. So we have very heat-loving cover crops, very heat tolerant, drought tolerant. We're using sun hemp and sorghum Sudan grass. These are very good at fighting against impaction and bringing up lots of nutrients and adding a lot of organic mass to your soil, and being a nice green manure that you can use as mulch or putting into your compost. We're going to do a little bit of all those things here at Recirculating Farms. We're going to use some of it as mulch, we're going to use some of it as compost, and some of it is actually going to be put right back into the soil that it grew out of. So to terminate sorghum Sudan grass and sun hemp, it's actually very easy. It's one of the easier crops to terminate. You simply just cut it at the bottom, as close to the ground as you can, or you let the winter cold come through and terminate it because it does not tolerate cold very well. These are heat-loving crops. So if you're going to use your cover crops in your compost, all you need to do is terminate it by cutting it right at the ground level, making sure that you keep the roots intact in the soil, and then bringing it over to your compost pile. This is just a small bunch as an example. You can put as much in your compost pile as it would take. Just remember the rules about keeping a good ratio of greens and browns in your compost pile to make sure that it stays healthy and doesn't get stagnant or anything like that. So you just put the cover crop into your compost pile, and then you just bury it. You want to make sure that it's well mixed into your compost pile so you don't lose any of that nitrogen that you just got out of your soil and out of the air, and you don't want it to go back into the air. So this bed is a great example of using your cover crops as a mulch. When you do that, you basically just cut them down at the base and then lay them directly back onto the bed and spread them out evenly, just like you would do with dried pine mulch or straw. So if you want to terminate your cover crops, but you don't want to do a till method, you can easily just put some soil or a compost mix on top of the cover crops, and that will help trap some of the nitrogen that the cover crops absorb. If you were okay doing a low till method or a till method, you can simply grind up the cover crops into the soil and let them break down over time, and it'll get the residue from the cover crops and benefit your beneficial nutrients and your plants. And that'll conclude our video about terminating your cover crops. Just always remember, when terminating your cover crops, you want to know exactly how to do it, because sometimes it can be a little harder than just cutting them at the base and then throwing them into your compost pile. We went a little deeper into these things in our previous video about cover crops, so make sure to check that out.